The following Dungeons & Dragons actual play podcast is based on real events from the history of American crime. Some of this imagery might be upsetting. Listener discretion is advised.
Infinite power, infinite power, infinite power, infinite power, infinite power. Infinite power.
One of the themes is that there are just awkward introductions to the show, so we are now recording.
Okay.
And so this is Strength Check. This is another cast. This is not Percy and Zafira and Solar. This is two new characters, maybe more people coming in as we record. We'll see. It's D&D. Anything can happen. So I want to take a quick second here to introduce our players. I don't think either of the gentlemen who are joining me tonight have their characters set up yet, so this is the 0 sessions. We worked that out. So Dan, how about you say hello to the people?
Hello, everyone. My name's Dan Lytle. Do I need to do more of the background stuff?
If you have anything you want to plug, any social media stuff, if you want to talk about your work, that's fine.
I'm good.
Okay, this is Dan. He's a mystery.
I'm a professor at Ball State University. So, hey.
Cool. Carlos, what do you got?
Yes, I am Carlos Rivera. Cue my music, Mark.
Did you talk to Mark to have a theme song set up, or is this something we're going to work out?
That was a 6-second pause. Yes, yeah, I'm just here to play some D&D. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
I do a lot of stuff, you know. I'm here for social causes, for social justice, reform, activist.
Nice.
You know, chief of staff.
Yeah, when my 5-year-old runs for president, Carlos is her. She doesn't know this yet. She hasn't done a formal interview process or anything. We're just trying to graduate pre-K tomorrow. So make it.
Yeah, well, she doesn't need that.
Solid goal.
Make it through that. Yeah, she was under the impression that she starts kindergarten on Monday, and we had to say, no. You have a 2.5 month long weekend. And just her eyes went huge. Yep, fun times. Lots of My Little Pony in my future. So we are still in the world of Backfire. I'm not sure when this is going to come out in relation to the other episodes that have been recorded. I think we're probably going to stagger them together, or Mark, being the genius producer that he is, can probably maybe mash some stuff together. We'll see. We're all figuring this out as we go. But Backfire, for those of you who are just coming into the show now, Backfire is a dark place. I wanted to come up with a world that had as much... So basically, I sat down one night and I made a list of all of the tropes from different crime and detective shows and books and movies and stuff like that. Because I wanted to make a place where all of this stuff happens a lot, but it's not a hellscape or anything like that. So I basically made 2019 the game. That there is... it's a government that has this rampant corruption centered on a guy who has basically positioned himself as an emperor on everything but name. The city itself is called Backfire, and it's based on Ravnica or Eberron or Coruscant from Star Wars. So the entire world is this city. There might be stuff outside of the borders, but everything is confined to Backfire. They haven't really done any kind of exploration. It's a sort of... I'm going for a classic Hollywood vibe with the city, so a depressing kind of Art Deco feel to it, I guess. I think in the campaign notes on D&D Beyond, I said Art Deco, but with a Kurt Cobain kind of vibe to it, if that makes sense. I was going for depressing, classy depressing though. functional depression maybe is the, the right term. Backfire has, like I was telling Dan earlier, it's a city that is really kind of overrun with bureaucracy. There are well-established institutions for every facet of life. Schools of magic are very strict by class. Magic that is like crossover is outlawed. It's really frowned upon. We're still trying to work out like what that looks like in game terms, but I like the term like outcast for them, just as like the play on words with cast. It's never sunny. The sun shines in Backfire maybe once every month or month and a half. The city is lit because it's D&D, and I saw somebody online say, like, in Dungeons and Dragons, you can have as many moons as you want to, and it doesn't matter. So, I think I
thought you meant it was lit like it was a party.
Backfire is lit. Sun. Yeah. It is, though, but there is, like, a thriving, because it's so dark and depressing, there's a vibrant, like, entertainment district. Everything from I guess, more elite, sort of upper class symphony orchestras and Broadway and Broadway equivalent, I guess, down to what we can think of as like lower class types of stuff, or ways for upper class people to pretend like they're poor. So like fights, gambling, like seedier clubs. The city has been built on top of itself several times, and so the entire undercity still exists, several layers down. People who live there are treated as like second-class citizens, so they only have, I think, 2 representatives in all of government. Their voting is really restricted. Not that their voting matters because it's so corrupt, but they're really frowned upon and not treated very well down there. So that's kind of the gist of the world building so far. Going for a noir kind of feel. Lots of D&D stories, I think, are centered on the heroes overcoming everything in the end, and I wanted to come up with a game or a setting that focused more on the heroes just survive, right? And kind of have resiliency be the goal here, rather than we're going to take over the world and everything. Now, the world is like totally primed for revolution, and things like that. So if that's where the campaign goes, and everybody decides to literally break the thing that I've spent so much time working on, and then I join the pantheon of dungeon masters who have had that happen to them in the history of D&D.
Railroad ahead.
Yep.
Oh no.
Yep. Yep. I had my head in my hands a few times last night, and so what kind of characters are you guys thinking about running?
I was kind of looking, I mean, for me, I try and build a character that sort of fits with the group.
Okay.
So I see there's about 8 people here that are listed as active characters. Well, 7 plus my non-made character.
Yeah.
Are these all folks that were at session 0 and are actively playing?
No. So this is kind of a mishmash of people. So let me look at this real quick. One of them. So Fishy McFish. Let's talk about Fishy. Fishy. I thought about inviting him tonight, but I kind of want to build up Fishy a little bit. He was a player that I met through a Discord called the Scraticus Academy. Scrat is a full-time Twitch streamer, and his thing is like inviting people who are new to tabletop gaming to play with him and his cast of people online, and people donate to him through his Twitch, through his Twitch. He does it as a full-time job, and so I met Michael through that, and I wanted to do a playtest of this world before we did the podcast, and so I just recruited random people from these different Discords that I'm in, and when I saw the name Fishy, I thought, oh man, what have I gotten into? Like, this is not going to be good. and I'm going to lose a couple hours of my time for like something absurd. And it was absurd. But it worked. It worked perfectly. and so And I had thought about running a different version of that campaign that I put them through that night for tonight, but I think it's like I like Fishy so much that it's canon, I think. So he's just this dude who is like likes fish a lot. So Fishy's around. So the campaign that I put them through it was like a ripoff of the beginning of the first Highlander movie. And so they're at this fight, and the fight was rigged, and Fishy was selling concessions in the crowd, and I think he wanted to say he's got fish on a stick, but he misspoke and said he's selling sticks on fish, and so it just went downhill from there. So Fishy will come in eventually. So Nim is Carlos, Percy is playing, Solar is playing, Zafira is playing. So those were the three from last night. Wes is supposed to be here tonight. I'm not sure where she is. And then Tosca also played in that first game, and I really liked her character, and she was a really good fit, I think, for me as a DM style. So she might come back. One of the things that I was kind of thinking about doing to make this as accessible to people as I can is to, once we have a group of people who consistently can record, every 2 weeks on whatever night we pick, then we can filter in people as they're available. And again, I think the comic book metaphor works for that. So a couple of episodes where Wolverine's not around, and then all of a sudden, here's Wolverine with fish on his claws. And he's back for a few episodes, and then disappears for a while.
Okay.
Just because I think it's easier for everybody. I thought about trying to stream this and use it to raise money, and I don't have the time for that. I don't have the time, and I don't want to ask people to commit to that. So D&D Beyond, I think, can allow up to 12 people in the campaign at once, 12 or 16 in the campaign at one time. So don't worry. This is a long way to say don't worry about trying to find the one...
Fill a niche.
Yeah. Play whatever you're comfortable playing, and we can make it work. If I have to create NPCs to throw in, I'm totally happy to do that. And whatever weird stuff you want to do too, because there's some weird stuff happening already.
Given the magic prohibition, I was leaning towards a arcane trickster rogue.
Okay.
Just because I think that would be fun.
Yep.
And they're wizard light. So that's sort of what I was thinking.
Do it.
Okay, it's done. I'm doing that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of arcane tricksters. big fan.
Yeah. So when I made the world, and this is already something that's with both games, I guess with all three games, people are drawn to this idea of the magic user who's not allowed to be doing it. Which is great. I've been reading so much stuff to prep for this Revolutions class I'm teaching in the fall that pushes all the buttons for me. I kind of want the train to get derailed. Burn down the Bonaventures. Make them pay for their corruption.
Give us enough time.
Yeah. Which is cathartic in a way, too, right? Making 2019 the game.
Seriously.
It's a fun coping mechanism.
Yeah. And I stole... So, the head Bonaventure, his title is Prince President. And that's I don't want to say homage, but that is just... He's a ripoff of Napoleon III. So, when Louis Napoleon was elected president of France, he really wanted to take France back to the days of his uncle, and so he basically called his shot. I'm gonna declare myself emperor, and I'm doing that by saying I'm gonna change my title to Prince President to make it fancy, class it up a little bit. And everybody's like, okay, that's cool. We don't suspect anything is gonna happen from this. And then he was like, so now I am Emperor Napoleon III. And we're going to start marching across Europe again. And then people are like, whoa. What? We just thought you liked fancy titles. So it's such a... like ostentatious, like almost Trumpian thing that it had to be in this world that's so corrupt. Why not?
Are there any restrictions in terms, or how are different races perceived? Are certain ones just by verdict outcasts?
Yeah, so there are second-class citizens. The second-class citizens are like the outcasts in the world would be anybody who is using magic who's outside of a school or outside of law enforcement. And then I wanted to work in like the classic Hollywood movie monsters. So there are vampires, werewolves. Although the werewolf thing, I have to figure out how it's possible. There he is. He's back.
What the? All right, where were we?
So just like talking about the races in the world, everything is allowed. It's Ravnica in that sense. Like there's no specific race that is outcast. It's more, I think it's stratified more by geography in the city, and then those monsters, like I was saying, vampires, werewolves, zombies, and I guess in D&D terms they would be flesh golems, but like any kind of construct like that, there's a story there, I think, about them trying to get equal treatment, like unhuman rights. I think I was thinking about it this morning, and I think the campaign for like lycanthropes specifically says, like the poster says at the top, "We're people," and then there's some kind of picture there, and the bottom it says "We're people," and it's such a dumb dad joke that I am like really. I wish we were streaming this because I'm so proud of myself over that horrible pun. So, but like I got so into this world that I started writing short stories about it, and one of them is about a zombie lawyer, trying to advocate for undead rights. So that's a thing that exists here. But other than that, like there's nobody that's really outcast by race.
Okay.
Good stuff. You wanted to break down, right? Before I cut off?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Alright, so Nim is an Eladrin monk.
Okay.
He's mostly a huckster, though.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, he uses religion.
Okay.
And he just changes from, like, god to god, deity to deity, just to survive.
Okay.
But he's really an alcoholic. So that's going to be fun.
Can relate. Okay. Yeah. And there are gods. Like all of the gods are here. There's an aspect of all of them in Backfire, and people are very open. So he would fit right in. Like people.
Like, do you remember the Mummy, the original one? Well, not the original, but the Brendan Fraser one.
The first one.
Yeah, the first one.
Kinda.
So he's battling this one guy, and they have the guy was a tour guide, and the mummy's about to kill him, so he starts pulling out all these religious medallions until he picks the right one, and the mummy like follows.
Okay,
that's Nim. That's Nim.
Okay, that's perfect. Nim fits in, even though he's scamming people. Maybe he fits right in. People in Backfire.
Not that scam though.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
But people here, like they'll they have like an a la carte or like a buffet approach to religion. Like they're totally fine with picking and choosing different aspects of different faiths and making it their own thing. How that affects the gods themselves, who knows? Like an interesting theological question to explore, because that's what people come to D&D for.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Oh no, when I had that idea too. Like this has been sustaining me over the boredom of summer break.
I'm like, who am I gonna piss off? Don't worry, that's my job. You can still walk the line. Don't worry.
Yeah, well, just wait until the parties merge together.
Oh, I'm saving my reason for why he became a monk until that.
That's fine. The crossover musical episode.
That's a joke will build itself up.
No doubt. So the other campaign started off in the ritzier part of the city. There was a murder. They're off investigating a murder. And it was a big enough person that both of your characters would have heard that it happened. Whether or not they knew, or like whether or not they know of this guy, is up to you. There was his name was Alexander Desmond Tate. He was a major theater director, producer type, and he was found dead in his home. And so, like I said, whether or not your characters have heard of him is up to you. Like I said, Backfire does have this almost as a way for people to kind of, I guess, cope with how dark and depressing their lives are. A very vibrant entertainment district. And so I think Tate dying would be like the equivalent of something happening to Steven Spielberg. Right? Like people recognize the name, even if you can't think of anything he did off the top of your head. So in this session, I want to explore some of the lower class parts of Backfire, the more impoverished or underneath areas a little bit. So I'm not sure if we were recording when I was explaining this part or not, but Backfire is a city that's been built on top of itself several times. I think of it kind of like Paris in that way, where the under city is still accessible if you just know where to look for the catacombs. Here, because there is this concentration of wealth, the more impoverished neighborhoods in the city proper and the first level of the city beneath kind of blend together as people kind of travel back and forth or above and below ground for whatever they might need. And it's more people coming from above ground to go under to do business or do dirt or whatever they're trying to do, and then go back. People who live underground aren't really allowed so much to go up. So instead of like unguarded catacombs or I guess like what would look like entrances to subway stations, there are really heavily guarded checkpoints for people to go through. So both of your characters are currently in the underneath. It's up to you if you want to say that they're residents of the underneath, or if they're just there on business, or if they're there for some kind of entertainment or some kind of pleasure or whatever. So, Dan, do you have a name for your character yet?
Yes. His name is Aelos, Aelos.
Okay. So, what do you think? Would Aelos be somebody who is, as a rogue, would he be somebody who lives there, do you think? Or is he...
So the way I envision him is he's the type of person that tries to sound much more knowledgeable about things than he is. Always like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. Dealer, sort of con man. I see as. So I'm guessing he grew up down there and is trying to make his way out of this underbelly.
Okay. So, all right, that's cool. Like it's just funny that like as an academic, like we deal with people all the time who act like they know stuff who don't, and they're not our students.
Right.
So cathartic for us in other ways. So Carlos, what about Nim? Do you think Nim is somebody who's local down there too, or resident down there too, or is this?
I feel like Nim would probably hang out down there, hiding from most of the people he's conned. Okay,
so he might have like a safe house set up.
Yeah,
we could say
probably best. Probably he goes up, up top to do his due diligence.
Yeah,
and then heads back down.
Yeah, his due. So he would have had to bribe, or maybe he has like a pass or something, so he can get past the guards. Like maybe he's making enough money on these cons that he can just bribe his way through every time, or
maybe one of the guards is just really. He probably caught one of the guards.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like one of them is really strict. I got to find the book that has the different gods in it, so I will dig for that real quick. But somebody who is very orthodox.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And here we go, gods of your world, Who would be the best one? What would be the funniest? Lolth. Well, no, because he'd be a guard. So like a guard who is chaotic, evil, trickster guard. That wouldn't work. Like, what would be the most honest one, I guess? Oh, no, so perfect. So one of the guards is a Dragonborn who is a disciple of Bahamut.
Oh,
yeah, who is, like, really, really strict. And is only letting Nim come back and forth because he puts his faith over his work, I think. And he sees the sort of missionary work that he thinks that Nim is doing as, like, part of the greater good.
Yeah. I can see Nim, like, walking around with a fucking... Oh, there we go. First one. Dragon medallion, like, hanging around his neck every time he sees the guard. Like,
yeah.
Peace with you, brother.
And it should be, like, really gaudy, too.
Like the dragon's teeth are just, like, shining with, like, little jewels.
But, yeah, it's, like... There's not real jewels, right? It's like
of course not,
bejeweled, and it's he tells people that it's made out of gold, but it's like lead with just gold, not even like gold plate or anything. It's just like
a chocolate wrapper.
yeah. This tinfoil thing that looks like a kid made it.
Paper clips, holding it together.
Oh yeah, but this really righteous devotee of Bahamut is like he is sold.
Yeah.
Is sold on it. Again, like 2019, the game. One thing that I need to think about in this, which I somehow didn't think about until now, is that like very clearly there would be gangs under the city, and there would be gangs like running the poor districts, and the poor districts need a name, but the gangs need a name.
That's like the 5 gangs.
Yeah, the gangs have to have like a Gangs of New York kind of like Dead Rabbits name or something like that, right? Like it has to be really evocative and but also kind of silly.
Sharks and Jets.
I don't know. When I went to Panama last year and I was meeting with their gang outreach people, and they like this whole presentation about gangs through the country and like which gangs are where, I was just sitting there like marveling at how cool the gang names were. Like this is so much more creative than anything we have in the States. Like, the Galacticos, come on. That's awesome.
I mean, that's pretty good.
That's so much better. Not that anybody at Strength Check is condoning gang activity. Just appreciative of the creativity. So... Again,
we can get some. We can definitely figure out.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. So, but I mentioned that because Nim is probably, like... under their protection, I guess. Like, there must be some sort of deal there. Hi again, everybody. This is Dr. Andy Wilczak. I wanted to say thanks again for taking time to listen to the show. We really appreciate it. The reason why I wanted to make Strength Check into an actual play D&D podcast, when there are so many other actual play shows out there that are probably way better than anything that I could do, is I want to draw your attention to a project that I'm a part of here in northeastern Pennsylvania. We're calling it Play for Progress, and the idea is to use D&D and eventually, hopefully, probably other tabletop games to help middle school and high school kids who are struggling with mental health problems or addiction issues, or who feel alienated or isolated in some way. This part of Pennsylvania has been hit really, really hard by the opioid crisis. This part of Pennsylvania has a very high alcoholism rate. And this part of Pennsylvania is diversifying very quickly, and there are those who have capitalized on that to try to create more conflict between people. So we have a lot of kids here who are alone and who are suffering, and suffering mightily. So what we're doing, and the point of this message now, is to just let you know that we are raising money to make Play for Progress a sustainable force for good in the northeastern Pennsylvania area. If you have even $5 to spare for us, you can go to GoFundMe.com/playforprogress with hyphens between the words, so play-for-progress. And anything that you can give us will go a long way towards making us sustainable. Thank you.